It was like 10:30 in the morning in the middle of a workday, and my phone just started going off. And I was able to track down the director of the Sonic movie, Jeff Fowler,
Oh, wow.
saw it and retweeted it, and commented on it, said he loved it, that he loved like that retro style of it. And I was like, that's awesome. That's amazing. My phone just, I almost had to turn it off because it was going off. Then Ben Schwartz replied to me on Twitter and said he loved it. And that definitely broadened the audience for like all the people who saw it. You've got literally the voice of Sonic saying that he likes your art, which was really surreal, having been a fan for of this franchise, for as long as I have, as, waking, randomly on Twitter, not literally, of course, but Sonic the Hedgehog says you like it or says that he likes your art.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sonic Historian Podcast. My name is Radrey, and I'm joined today by Marc Cavazos and Alex from It's Clobberinthyme or Clobberinthyme. What's the name?
At Clobberinthyme, yeah. So most people probably have who are familiar with Sonic probably know me from Twitter. Like you were saying, my handle is at Clobberinthyme, THYME, spelled like the herb, and so I'm known as like a graphic designer. That's just generally what I do as a profession, but I've made a lot of retro-inspired Sonic art that people might have seen around the internet, most notably for putting a lot of different Sonic media on things like VHS tapes and cassettes that definitely didn't come out on those formats. I created a cover for the Sonic movie to make it look like a VHS tape. And that was back before the movie came out, back in November 2019, I want to say. And then right before the movie came out, I had the idea of like, maybe I'll, or right after the movie came out, I'm sorry, I figured like, why not take it a step further and actually put this thing on a real tape, make it even more surreal.
Very vaporwave.
Yeah, definitely one of the stylistic inspirations for that, just because I really like whenever I'm doing design pieces. So I've been a graphic designer for about 3 years now, professionally, and whenever I'm doing like just general for fun pieces, I really always like to lean towards retro style things like with that vaporwave aesthetic, but also like to make them look very slightly weathered and older and a little more beat up, depending on the subject. Like if I'm making posters and things like that. And I got on a kick with a couple of templates where I just really wanted to make some VHS looking designs. And since I'm a huge fan of Sonic, that was the first subject where I felt comfortable to be like, all right, well, let's go ahead and try it out on Sonic.
Right. What is it that you find about VHS box art that you find so appealing?
I feel like a lot of it is nostalgia. I mean, that's really what drives a lot of it, I think, is there's something comforting, about seeing something that's familiar from, when I was a kid. And a lot of it just feels so very, just something about it is a little more inspired, I think, than most stuff now. Because, whenever stuff is put on tape and you have that cover art, it's normally not just, the poster that was hanging in the movie theater. It's normally, that they do like particular art for the VHS release that was, a lot of it used to look, like hand drawn and painted and things like that. But I think another thing I miss about old VHS cover art that I find really appealing is there's not like a billion different advertisements on it. It's most of the time it's just a poster for the film. There's nothing about linking your rewards account or the digital copy included or, anything like that. It's just, it's, even though it's, older and obviously design taste change and thing, but it's just something very clean about how you're being presented as this is it's exactly what it is. It's the movie, not 5 other things being sold to you on the case of a movie.
Yeah, a lot of the 1990s VHS box art. It definitely has this kind of exaggerated, kind of glossy sort of finish to it. I'm thinking a lot of like the Ninja Turtles VHS home releases. That definitely does not look like any kind of animation in the show. A lot of it is more like their skin is more of a bright green. Their faces are rounder. It actually looks kind of Looney Toony.
Yeah.
Not anything that was actually captured from the show, but it really was customized for the cover itself by a different artist. That also includes the Sat Am and the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog box art, which look a little bit crazy to me. Yeah. Oh man. What am I looking
it feels
at?
like they always had like outsourced artists who were like probably given like 4 or 5 images to work off of.
Oh yeah. What is up with that? Yeah. I remember when I saw that in the supermarket, I'm like, wait, that's Sonic. That's like Sonic, but he looks weird.
Is that the same show I've been watching every Saturday?
Yeah.
What?
I kind of remember the scene they're referencing, but I don't remember it happening like that.
Is that
like,
Grounder? What the?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, you remember those? Did you ever see like those? What was it? Was it Eastern Europe where they have like those movie posters that were like paintings, and they're just like they're so awful. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's kind of close. Well, maybe that's too much of an insult. Maybe we might get somebody who made one of the poster art. We could ask him about why he made that design.
Yeah, but definitely you've got those outsourced artists where you're kind of just like, I don't think that person's seen the thing that they're making this cover for.
Yeah, if we pitch down lower, a lot of the localized like regular Nintendo games from the era before. Like, I mean, of course, we all know like the Mega Man 1 box art, which is pretty infamous, where probably the artist had no idea what Mega Man was, or more, nor did anyone else, I suppose, at the time. But oh man, look at that. He looks like a constipated dork. Okay, thankfully,
could you imagine that? How that conversation must have went? It's like, we want you to bring us Mega Man. Like, what's Mega Man? I don't know. Just figure it out. We need a box art by tomorrow. Go.
In comparison, like the European box art for the first Mega Man game is incredible. Like that looks awesome. Oh man. Wow. Okay.
So Alex,
anyway,
I wanted to ask you, how has the reception been to the Sonic box art that you've made for the VHS?
Honestly, surprisingly well. And I didn't really expect it to be the case. I feel like I had a lot of help from it initially, just because I originally didn't put anything on tape. I just made that one poster for the Sonic movie that looked like it was, a VHS insert, like a cover art insert into like a one of those like clamshell cases. But what really made it take off was, just like anything on Twitter, is the right person seeing it. And at the time when I posted it, I was really proud of it. I hadn't done anything like super retro inspired before, but I was happy enough with it, that I was going to post it and be like, oh, the same 10 or 12 people I interact with on Twitter will see this. But suddenly it was like 10:30 in the morning in the middle of a workday, and my phone just started going off. And I was able to track down the director of the Sonic movie, Jeff Fowler, saw it and retweeted it, and commented on it, said he loved it, that he loved like that retro style of it. And I was like, that's awesome. That's amazing. Who would you like of all people you would want to see this, the guy who's directing the movie, right? That's amazing. And that gave it a little bit of traction, but then after it died down a little bit, I got my phone I almost had to turn it off because it was going off, because then Ben Schwartz replied to me on Twitter and said he loved it. And that definitely brought in the audience for like all the people who saw it. You've got literally the voice of Sonic saying that he likes your art, which was really surreal having been a fan for like of this franchise, you know, for as long as I have, is, you know, waking, you know, randomly on Twitter, not literally, of course, but, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog says you like it or says that he likes your art. And then, you know, then the official...
You're like, wait a minute, I know that account.
Right. That's a blue check mark. That's interesting. And then the official Sonic the Hedgehog movie Twitter retweeted it. And then Paramount Pictures retweeted it. And so, like, that definitely blew up my audience for the people who see that kind of stuff and who are into that kind of stuff. And, you know, of course, you know, a lot of the interactions were from people who were, you know, casual fans and probably just movie fans in general. And then, you know, a lot of it were people from the Sonic fandom who I never really had interacted with before in a big way online, because even though I've been a Sonic fan for most of my life, you know, I was never super into the, you know, online fandom of it. Not because I had any problem with it. It's just because, you know, I didn't really have, personally, I didn't feel like I had a lot to contribute that most other people wouldn't have, you know, other than just opinions. But the reception after that, whenever I've been doing Sonic art, has been really cool. After that initial bit, I decided to take it a little bit further after the movie came out and put it on a physical VHS tape, you know, finished up the cover art. So it was like a slip cover, made labels for the tape, put the movie on the tape, you know, have had a completely finished product. And that one got a lot of attention too, specifically from the Twitter account of the movie, retweeted that one as well. And I got a lot of interactions from other Sonic fans. And what was really cool is I had people coming to me asking me how to make one, and not just in the, you know, just, oh, cool, how'd you do that? But like, hey, can you show me how to make this? Because they wanted to make their own, which I thought was really cool. And it was like this level of interaction I hadn't had with people about Sonic before, you know, because they weren't wanting to know how to make their own VHS slipcover. They were wanting to know how to make their own Sonic movie tape, which was really fun and really cool to talk to people about. I think one of the people who I helped make one, what's his name? His name's, I think it's Savage Extreme on Twitter, even got picked up by Sonic Stadium when he made his, and they wrote a whole article about it, which was super cool to see. And then, you know, you see people posting their own and making their own, and seeing people talking about on Twitter, like how making Sonic VHS tapes is like this quiet trend. And it's just really cool to see that, you know, you set off like a as tiny as it is, just like a little ripple of things through the fandom, and like a new way to make art for this character. And then, yeah, the latest one I did was I put Sonic Mania Adventures, that YouTube series, on VHS. And that was also really cool because that one got noticed by people who work on the series. So like Aaron Weber, and I believe her name's Katie, who's now the lead social media person at Sonic. And then just a bunch of other Sega employees who worked on games like Yakuza and stuff like that were retweeting it and talking about it. So that was also really cool. And it was almost to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, you know, I almost want to retire from it now. You know, I don't know how much cooler things can be if I've got people who work at Sega and people who work on the movie talking about the things I've done. But
yeah, you never expect to get the attention of like the higher ups, right? That's
right.
That's
exactly.
never really. That was never your intent, right?
No, never. I expected, like, if I hashtagged it like, you know, Sonic movie,
box art.
Yeah, I expect like maybe 6 people with a Sonic avatar to like it, you know, that I don't follow or I don't know. I definitely never expected like to see a notification that said Paramount Pictures retweeted you. Like that's crazy. And definitely not something I ever expected to come from it. I definitely wasn't putting out my art being like, all right, I gotta get noticed. You know, it was just like, oh, I made a cool thing. And it's really cool when, you know, you've got Ben Schwartz being like, hey, you made a cool thing. So that was definitely not the intention, but a super happy side effect of the whole thing for sure.
Yeah,
it definitely is unique that we live in an era now. I find Twitter itself to be toxic most of the time, but it does allow us to actually have a more recognizable voice amongst the celebrities and the important people we admire on Twitter are also very much interactable. It very much surprised me when I believe that Kevin Smith, the director of Clerks, he made a post about some new script he was working on, and I think I replied saying, "Kevin Smith, it's my birthday." I love Kevin Smith, and he replied saying, "Happy birthday, Marc." I was like, "What?"
That's really cool.
So I was very surprised by that. So that was along my first experiences as well. Where what? I think that everyone has their own experience now, where it is very much obtainable, or not exactly easy, but it's surprising that the internet has made it a much smaller world as opposed to when we were growing up, when prior to all of this. So
yeah, exactly. It like tore down that wall of like normal people and celebrity, and that you could just tag a celebrity and there's a chance they might see it and have something to say about it. It's that simple nowadays. Like you're saying with Kevin Smith, I've had him like something from me on Twitter before. I've, tagged wrestlers and things just because I had, comments and they would reply to me. So it's really crazy how like there's just no big wall anymore. Now, if you, for better or for worse, obviously, if you say something on Twitter and tag the person, there's always a chance that that person can see it, no matter who they are or what level of celebrity or profile they have.
Right. Yeah, no, I've always thought like when you tag someone in a post, particularly on Twitter, it's always like you're putting them a part of the conversation. So, I mean, who doesn't want to be part of the conversation? Especially people who are like, they want to know what the other side is thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's probably pretty easy to be behind the scenes and wondering like, are people going to like this movie? Are they going to like this? I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean,
I definitely
without Twitter, we wouldn't have the current Sonic in that movie.
You think that's what it was? Was it Twitter?
I think that, that's probably, making it too simple, but I think a lot of the outcry was definitely on Twitter. Yeah.
That's true. It seems to be the most public platform opposed to like Facebook or something, or.
Well, yeah, that's where, that's what makes it the worst platform, but also, I mean, it's a place. It is genuinely a place for people to complain about everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I would say the initial reaction was, the trailer got a number of thumbs down, potentially rivaling that Ghostbusters movie, and as I said, almost every podcast now, as opposed to throwing it back at the fans and saying that they were wrong. The team behind the Sonic movie actually listened to the fan reaction. So yes, of course, the Twitter response and the YouTube response made an impact, and they went back and they listened to their fans. So this is a very important thing. The idea of having fan and creator interaction, even on a Hollywood level, can really change the game, and everyone can benefit from it. As opposed to, throwing it back in their faces and making excuses, saying, "Oh, well, this entire group of people is sexist or racist, and if you don't go see the movie, then you're a bad person or whatnot." But which is the complete wrong way of going about it, and is absolutely ridiculous. But it definitely shows something important when we actually do have the ability to consciously influence the decisions of major creators.
I definitely think that the art I made for the movie also definitely wouldn't have been nearly as popular or taken off like it did if that character hadn't been redesigned either. Because I definitely didn't use the original design on anything I did. It was after that new trailer had dropped where they were showing his new look. So I definitely think I wouldn't have had nearly as much notice on it with that original design for sure.
For sure, your career would probably be very different now. If you use another design. But,
wait a minute. So you're saying that like a lot of this kind of puts you into the whole design field? Are you interested in design before Sonic and everything?
Yeah,
the VHS design. Box art, I should say.
Yeah, I was interested in design before Sonic. I mean, I'm in my day job, I'm a graphic designer for a software company. But I also do, freelance stuff on the side just because that's how you can, I still, even though it is my job, I do love art and graphic design. So the freelance stuff on the side is definitely my way of being able to do projects that I'm, have more personal interest in. So like I've done logos for podcasts and things like that, and all sorts of different projects that people wanted to work on, and I really enjoy doing that, just because it's you can go out looking and be like, hey, I like your band, can I help you with your album art, things like that. But I can absolutely, for sure, with that Sonic thing taken off, I had a lot more eyes on the stuff that I do, and have definitely gotten projects and jobs and met people and done stuff with people design wise that I never would have been able to do before, because they never would have found me if it weren't for these like Sonic retro art designs.
Oh, really? Can you tell us a story about any of these people? Or
oh yeah, my personal favorite was I had a hardcore band from Connecticut reach out to me on Twitter and say that they loved the Sonic art I did, and wanted me to design a VHS tape for them because they were putting one of their album release shows on tape, and they were going to be selling it at shows, which I love that idea of like, that seems very 90s DIY to me, is putting your band stuff on a tape and, selling it to people. But yeah, they reached out to me because they wanted me to design the VHS tape and the VHS cover for their album release show. And I worked with them on doing that. And that was really fun because I used to play in bands. Used to play like in metal bands and stuff like that. So I always loved working with musicians on design stuff. And they definitely, I mean, the guy said, in his original message that he loved the Sonic thing I did, and I didn't know this person, had no mutuals or anything like that, and that it was a really fun to work on something like that for somebody. And another band I've worked with is a Canadian band, Courage My Love, who I've also just helped them design like posters and social media posts and just different things like that. No like merch or anything, or albums or anything like that, but just general social media stuff for them. I think one of the ones I did for them recently is I took their album cover and replaced them with KK Slider from Animal Crossing for one of their social media posts. And that was really cool. And again, that was purely because I was making some retro inspired art. They had a music video that was based on like 80s horror movies, and I made like a fake horror movie cover VHS tape for their music video, and they saw all my other work that I've done and wanted me to help them make some stuff as well. So those two have been my favorites so far, purely because I love working with bands on that kind of stuff. Okay. And I made a bunch of different physical ones this way too. Like I made one for Avengers Endgame, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and Into the Spider-Verse, and Thor Ragnarok. Those are all the ones I've made that are like not Sonic related. Which I post those. I probably should have mentioned this too. I post those on my quote unquote video store called Anchor Video. And I post those just like on Instagram and stuff like that. And people can purchase them, but I always have to tell them too that I'm not selling you the actual movie. I'm selling you a VHS tape that might have like previews on it or something. But I'm not, like all the ones I keep from my personal collection that I build, or always going to have the movie on them because that's just, for personal use. But whenever I've done custom pieces for people, I always have to be like, now please understand, this is not going to have Thor on a VHS tape. I'm not allowed to do that legally.
Right. So let me ask a little bit about, as you being a designer, what can you tell me about Sonic's design overall that makes you feel some sort of, what kind of significance does it have for you?
His design is I feel like his design is super accessible, especially for people who are artists or grew up drawing as kids and are artists now. Because I feel like his simplicity is what makes him so iconic. I feel like with cartoon characters, you gotta have that recognizable silhouette. Like if you look at an outline of Mickey Mouse, you're like, that's Mickey Mouse, right? You see the 2 ears, you know immediately. And I'm sure, there's also that pop culture influence on that, but you get what that character is. And I feel like if you see that outline of Sonic, you get that, you get what it is, and you know who it is. And I think what makes him such a, design-wise, such a good-looking character is that he's easy for kids to draw. He's dynamic enough in terms of his design, like the sharp spikes and the big expressive eyes that make him also really fun for, popular art, like just modern artists to draw. And I feel like he's got a lot of flexibility in his design that he can be interpreted a bunch of different ways. I mean, as we've seen over the years, just through the comic books, right? There's been probably over 100 different artists who have drawn Sonic in the comics, and each one of them have their own take on this character, but none of them, outside of maybe Ron Lim, I think, would you look at it and and never think that that's not Sonic? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No disrespect to Ron Lim. It'd be interesting to ask.
He's great in Marvel Comics. His Marvel Comics work is amazing, but I have no idea what he was thinking when he was drawing Sonic.
No disrespect to Ken Penders or Ron Lim, but I think they're best suited for, I think it was here on this podcast we were saying they're better drawing off human characters.
Yeah. I'm more of a Stephen Butler and James Fry guy for those artists from the comics.
What design of Sonic would you say is your favorite?
Ooh, 3D.
Say the Mohawk.
Yeah, the Greg Barton Sonic.
Yeah.
I think my favorite in the games, because I'll split this up into animation and games. 3D game wise, I love the Sonic Adventure model with the fingers stuck together, where it looks like he's just got mittens and he's got that weird, fuzzy texture, but there's nothing to it because he's still really kind of pointy and polygony. I love the Sonic Adventure models, the Dreamcast Sonic Adventure models. I do not like the Adventure DX GameCube remake where they're all super shiny and everything. I don't like that. But the Dreamcast model for Sonic Adventure is probably my favorite 3D Sonic. Animation wise, I don't think it gets any better than the Sonic the Hedgehog the movie OVA. I don't think you get any better than that.
Oh wow, yeah. I definitely
short spikes, light blue. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely like it as well. I think that the Sonic OVA or the Sonic animated movie definitely does have a heavy influence from Yasushi Yamaguchi's design that was based on Sonic 2, Sonic CD, which is my favorite Sonic design at that. So
that Sonic CD intro, is amazing, and that's definitely it's clearly definitely influenced by that. I think I like it more than the Sonic CD version just because you get more of it outside of the intro. Because obviously that intro is probably one of the best representations of Sonic and his abilities and what makes that character so expressive and fun to watch. I think I just like the OVA because it's now I get 60 minutes of that. Obviously not to that degree, but I still love it.
I'm actually quite a big fan of not Dreamcast Sonic, but I like the aesthetic of like Sega Saturn polygonal graphics. So the stuff you see, say like in the Sonic Jam like character model, as well as the Sonic Fighters game,
or the Sonic Mania bonus stage. That also looks.
Oh yeah, it looks very Sega Saturn-ish, right? So I like, as far as like the kind of like retro 3D polygonal graphics, those are among my favorites. The more blocky kind of Sega Saturn aesthetic.
Yeah, it's doing more with less. There's something a lot more charming about them.
So, what would you say that the Dreamcast designs are your biggest influence as a graphic designer when it comes to Sonic?
Actually, yeah. I think that might be one of my biggest influences just as a graphic designer in general is the Dreamcast era of gaming. Because there are a lot of times where I'll get kind of stuck working on a project and I'll just pop open like a really old video game magazine and go get digging through stuff, because a lot of that late 90s aesthetic that you might have seen for video game ads for like the Dreamcast or the original PlayStation stuff has kind of been making its way back around some of the elements into like a lot of modern designs that people are putting out. And a lot of those old Dreamcast games, or Dreamcast ads, I mean, have really helped give me like ideas for breaking down like maybe that little wall I have as a designer and, you know, working on a project. And plus, it always helps to get ideas from things that you just really like, you know? So a little bit of it is, all right, I just want to read through and look through some old design work and, you know, see if I can get some inspiration. And then, you know, the other half of it is like, I like getting inspiration from things that I like. So yeah, I would definitely say that a lot of that old stuff, especially like that Dreamcast era, definitely has an influence on a lot of the design stuff I've done. With the VHS and retro stuff, that's probably a little more design or influenced by the original Sonic era, like the very early 90s. Just because that fits, you know, that you know, timeline a little bit more in terms of like design aesthetic and things like that. Because I feel like late 90s, 2000s VHS stuff is kind of just really what we have now for DVDs and things like that. But I mean, one of the pieces I made is I remade the Sonic the Hedgehog 1 Genesis box art with the movie Sonic in it. That was another piece I did that was really fun, and a lot of people in the fandom really liked and shared and seemed to really dig that. So it might come from both of those, but I think as a designer, a lot of my stuff is influenced by, you know, a lot of that video game ad aesthetic from the late 90s, but for a lot of my Sonic retro stuff, that's definitely more influenced by very early 90s video games and ads.
So, what do you think it is about the blue hedgehog that has kept people's interests, you know, intact, you know, over all this time? What do you think it is that, you know, because like you see so many characters like, what's that one from Xbox? The cat with the green eyes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is it Lynx?
Blinks? Yeah,
Blinks, thank you.
The time sweeper.
Yeah, it's like
wasn't that like Oshima as well?
That I don't know.
I think Oshima actually directed that game.
Oh really?
So yeah. I'm 100% sure it was him. Let me check on that. But Blinks the cat.
Yeah, Blinks the cat's a good example of like characters that really didn't make it. Because I mean, you saw in like the early 90s when Sonic was so huge that you saw a bunch of copycats like Gex the Chameleon. What are the
well, the 90s definitely was the time for mascots. Yeah.
Particularly video game mascots, yeah.
So more on that, actually, yeah. Ironically, Blinks the cat, or Blinks the time sweeper, the director was Naoto Oshima, who was the designer of Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
that's interesting.
Call it a copycat or not, but yeah, he was responsible for his work on Blinks the Time Sweeper and also Blinks 2, the sequel. So So yes, that was his new baby after Sonic.
Right. Well, my question here is, why has the character had such a long lifespan? And it seems like he's at no point in time like going to be disappearing anytime soon. Because sometimes you see like the lifespan of certain characters. I mean, call this a false equivalency, but sometimes you don't see characters associated with certain products anymore. Maybe usually because of like maybe scandals like with Avoid the Noid, even though they're trying to bring him back. But maybe like Ronald McDonald, or here in Japan, you have stuff like mascots like based upon prefectures like Kumamon and Funashi, which they're kind of like they come and go in terms of popularity. But I have this better feeling with Sonic. It seems like he's kind of had this long history opposed to a lot of these other characters. What do you think it is about this character that, means more to people than it is like other characters? Because I mean, obviously this character brought us here today, so it must have some significance.
I think it's because Sonic, they did a really good job with making him something besides just a video game character. I feel like, I mean, my first exposure to Sonic was a Sad-Am, the Saturday morning cartoon. I didn't even know he was a video game character.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and then
wow.
I just loved that cartoon. Then one day my mom came home. She goes, "Oh my gosh, Alex, they make comic books based on this cartoon you like." And I was like, "That's crazy!" So I was reading the cartoon or the comic books and watching the cartoon, and then eventually I was like, "Oh my gosh, they make video games about that cartoon he likes." So my mom got me into video games, and of course, then I found out like, oh, he's a video game character first. But I think it's because there's so much different media for Sonic that there's always going to be a version of him that appeals to somebody, because
that's an interesting take.
Yeah, the Sad-Am Sonic is not the video game Sonic.
No,
really he's not from Sonic 2. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic, maybe. But, the comic book Sonic, he's not the same as the video game version either. You've got things like Sonic Underground, Sonic Boom. You've got games like Sonic Spinball, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Like he's got all these different spin-offs. And I think what really has made him stick around is that there's always going to be media about this character that's not video game exclusive, which I think is really important. There wasn't a Blinks the Time Sweeper comic book or anything like that at the time. So I think what makes Sonic awesome is that they, at the very beginning, were already pushing him out into other media forms to have people be exposed to this character. I think another thing that was really smart is that they continued to soft reboot this character as time went on.
Okay.
So I think that like the Sonic Heroes era Sonic is very specifically targeted towards kids who were into very specific things in 2004 that might not have been into the same things in 1993. If that makes sense. I feel like 1993 was a very different time. Sonic was presented a little differently, like, as he had a, like almost a bad attitude. He was edgy. He was, like an MTV version of like a Mario character almost, Then you get to the mid 2000s Sonic, and he's presented more towards kids who maybe watch like Foxbox after school, like they're really into Yu-Gi-Oh and Ninja Turtles and things like that. So he's presented more like, almost not shonen style, but like a little cleaner. He's got his cast of characters was brought to the forefront a little bit more compared to the older games. And then as you get into 2006, I don't know what happened there. But then as you move forward,
he had a fat Elvis day.
Yeah.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah. And then as you move forward, like Sonic Unleashed Sonic is a little more Pixar influenced, a little more kid movie influenced. And I feel like they've slowly been able to reinvent that character to always appeal to the kids of that time period when they're putting out this game, because at the end of the day, we all love this character and he's got media for people our age as well. But, the main reason we all like Sonic is because we all liked him when we were kids. And I think what keeps him, in the forefront and having this longevity is we're all older now. So we like this character a lot, like we have a deep affinity and nostalgia for this character, along with just still liking him, of course. But they've never forgotten that at the end of the day, it's a character that is for kids. Obviously, that I don't want that to sound reductive, because, that, a lot of people, when they say this character's for kids, that's implication that the quality is bad. And that's not the case. I feel like he's presented to kids, but it's something that, anybody in the family can watch. I think the perfect example is the movie. That's not a kid's movie. That's a family movie. It's obviously simple enough that kids will love it, but it's not too simple to the fact that it's insulting to an adult watching it. And I feel like that's something they never forgot, is they were always able to appeal to kids, because at the end of the day, that's who's going to keep carrying this franchise forward, because now you've already got people who played Sonic Heroes when they were super young and are now having, being older now, super nostalgic for things of that era.
Absolutely.
I think that's always going to be what's continuing to go forward.
I would say that, yes, a similar franchise is Ninja Turtles, which has repeatedly gone through the ages of very similar in the sense that Ninja Turtles is meant to sell figures rather than video games, but they have been soft rebooted repeatedly, and they have had their own comic book line that is meant to both appeal to kids and adults. They've been reinvented repeatedly. A very similar history to Sonic when you think more about it.
Yeah,
comparatively. Whereas, since you were mentioning mascot characters, I went down a rabbit hole of looking at the history of Bubsy. And,
not
man.
Bubsy.
Yeah, I'd rather talk about the Noid.
Did you know that there was actually a Bubsy game that came out in 2019? Jesus Christ! Let's not talk about that. But
why do you bring it up?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I went down a rabbit hole of terrible mascot characters, and
oh right, you want some references, right?
Bubsy could be comparable as being another edgy character from the early '90s. I believe it was actually '93. Apparently, there actually even was a television pilot for an animated series sponsored by Taco Bell. But
that's some synergy right there.
Hey, Mark, what could possibly go wrong? Wasn't that 3D, what he said?
Bubsy 3D.
Yeah, that's probably went wrong. That's right.
I think mentioning these copycat characters too is also what helps Sonic have that longevity. Is he wasn't a copy of Mario outside of he was meant to be a mascot. He was very clearly his own thing. The first character that was like that. A cartoon character, but he's got a bad attitude and he goes really fast. And it was just very clear that anyone that came after that didn't try to become their own thing. They were just trying to copy the formula of Sonic or Mario. And I think that's what also has made him such a long-lasting character compared to
Bubsy.
Bubsy, yes. We're not sitting here calling Sonic a copycat, and I think it's because he was the first character of that kind. So obviously that says something to his success as well, as people are not going to remember him as anything but the first of that kind.
Bubsy definitely was a copycat of Sonic. Even the original designer has decided that he played Sonic the Hedgehog extensively and took incredible inspiration from the game.
Anyway, Alex, anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I guess I can. I'll do a quick plug and say that people can follow me and look at all of my retro inspired art and all my Sonic designs on Twitter. I'm at Clobberinthyme. That's THYME. And I also post all of my exclusively custom VHS stuff on Instagram at Anchor Video Store. So that's pretty much where all of my design work is going to be, is on those two accounts.
Okay, can I ask why? Why is it called Anchor Video? You just like
because
anchors?
I like the name, but also because the initials make it AV. like audio,
audio visual.
I just thought that was pretty fun. Or audio visual, yeah. I thought that was pretty fun when I was making it up.
Okay, interesting. That's clever. I mean, they always like a lot of titles. They have to have like puns or alliteration in it. Okay. For myself, you can find me at Rad Culture on Twitch.tv. Sometimes I stream Sonic games during the weekdays, usually on Wednesdays around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to around noon. Be sure to go on down to the Sonic Discord. The links are down below. Everything is down below that we're talking about. Introduce yourself if you want to become a Sonic historian and help us out with some of the facts that we got wrong today. Feel free to, set the record straight. Be sure to choose a role, introduce yourself, tell us who you are. Have a long conversation with us. We'd love it, I think. Right, Marc? What do you think, Marc?
I try my best. Yeah.
All right, we'll try our best. Come on down. So, with Marc, do you want to give off your social plugs?
Sure. You can actually find me on Instagram. I'm Super Famicom, and on Twitch, I occasionally stream retro games or RPGs, where I am known as Famicom Marc. Ironically, I'm more of a Sega guy, not so much of a Nintendo guy. But hey.
Hey, you should just be glad that you got that username.
Yeah, so I don't change it. Whoever has the Mega Drive Instagram name, I should trade of them.
Mega Drive Marc.
Yeah, it doesn't really have the same ring to it, I guess.
All right, then.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have... Well, it's more alliteration. Oh, wait, no, it's not. There's a D in Drive. All right, then. So, until then, I'm Radrey, and...
I'm Marc.
And that was Alex from It's Clobberinthyme. See you next time, guys. Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have you read a lot of the Archie and IDW Sonic comics? Are you a big fan or collector of these?
Very big fan. I've got about 3 long boxes full of the Archie comics. That was my main gateway into Sonic, especially growing up. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Archie run, and I do read the IDW comics monthly. I really enjoy those as well. But yeah, the Archie comics were definitely my main source of like Sonic for a very long time. Because I mean, of course you have the games, but you don't get a new game every month. But you do get a new Sonic comic every month. So that was pretty much my main source of Sonic for a long time. I have a real fondness for those comics. It's a funny
Archie,
story.
that is.
For the Archie, yeah. It's a really funny story because if you go back and reread those now, there are a lot of moments where I'm kind of like, I don't know how I ate this up as a kid. I really don't.
Anything in particular? I'm actually rereading them myself.
Knuckles.
What about Knuckles?
I'm trying to think where to start.
You talking about Ken Pender's Knuckles?
It's easier to say Ken Pender's, I think. Yeah, that's probably the easier thing to say. Especially like when it first started, I remember this very specifically as a kid. I loved the Knuckles miniseries, the very first bit where it just introduced Enerjack and Archimedes the Fire Ant. Like that was it, right? It was just those 2 characters. I loved that, and I still think that holds up pretty well. It's when Knuckles became like this weird meta savior of the universe thing, and the comics.
Oh, I don't think I got that far.
would include like family trees and things like that. Like that was a bit much. As a kid, I loved it because I like Sonic. I'm getting more of Sonic. That was pretty much the that was the low bar for me as a kid. Rereading them as an adult, there was a lot of the Knuckles stuff and his family tree and his own personal relationships and things like that. There was just a lot of stuff where I was like, I just don't know if I need this. Feels like they should have reined this guy in a long time ago.
Well, yeah. If you ever watch his interview on Midnight's Edge, you can get a little perspective on that. I don't know if you've watched that.
Oh, they're my favorite. Midnight's Edge is my favorite YouTube podcast.
His Twitter account really bums me out. Just because he'll say things about his time on the comic, and it just, he'll say certain things, and I'm like, I really didn't want to know that about these characters. And it's even weirder that you're saying these things because you were making these comics for kids who were like 8 years old. So
I'm guessing you're talking about the love triangle between Sally Acorn and Jeffrey St. John.
I hate that. He would say like, "Oh, there's these things I wish I could have done, and I wasn't able to." And I was like, "Dude, I was 9 when I was reading this. Why would you have wanted to put that in a comic?"
It was still kind of weird. I mean, it was weird, like when you're 9 years old and you're looking at this huge, like, full page panel of Sonic kissing Sally, and I'm like, what am I supposed to be feeling? I mean, I know that like Sat Am, when I recently rewatched it, I remember this feeling of like, why is Sally kissing everybody? Like, you don't see this in normal other cartoons. I mean, do you? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like,
no.
And I think that was really rare at the time. And I remember at the time, I remember not being grossed out by it, or maybe I was. I don't even remember. So like my feelings are kind of conflicted back from those times. Yeah. And when you read the Pender stuff, it's kind of like you wonder what was really going on behind the scenes with that character, or characters.
I feel like it was a case of like, what was that other? There's this movie that always like kind of likened this to was that old anime Urusei Yatsura.
Okay.
They did that movie Beautiful Dreamer. And it was this, I can't remember the director's name, but he was known for a lot deeper, more in-depth storytelling with very psychedelic visuals and just really out there stuff. And they were like, hey, take this romantic comedy anime and make a movie. And it felt like he was just telling a story he already wanted to tell, but he had to use these characters. And I feel like that's what a lot of Ken Pender stuff was on Sonic, is he had a story he wanted to tell. He was just unfortunately stuck with Sonic characters.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff that I do look back on the comics fondly of his creations. Like I loved the Down Under Freedom Fighters. What was I loved that whole Search for Nagus story, and like starting with like around issue 60. Was
that Pender's?
I think so.
Okay, I need to go through this entire thing.
And I might be getting all this muddled up, but just for
this is why we're historians here, trying to get the facts right.
But for the sake of just saying about the comics in general, I love. There's a lot more that I look back on it fondly than I don't. But definitely once I learned more about Penders as a writer, the more it was harder to look back on some of those things fondly. But I'll say it now. My favorite creation of his was the Down Under Freedom Fighters.
Were they his characters?
Yeah, they did make. Okay. They were created for the comic book.
Because I know there's, what's his name? Fang the Sniper, or Knack the Weasel, if you're in the States,
Knack the Weasel, and then Nick the Weasel, who was his sister, was also another creation.
Oh, that's right. He had a sister, didn't
comics. There was a
was that Sega canon, or was that just created for the Archie comic?
Oh, 100% for the Archie comic, yeah.
Okay, all right. I need to get this straight.
Pretty much if a family member appeared, it was probably just for the comic book.
Okay, Sega doesn't do families. Got it.
No. They definitely did not make, what was his name, Robba the Hedge, who was just Robin
I don't even
Hood,
know who that
hedgehog.
Is. Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
In Mercia, where Antoine's roboticized father was the sheriff of Snottingham.
Oh yeah, what? Yeah, that I think that's why I stopped reading. I stopped after issue 70, because it got pretty diverse, Because I think a lot of what it is with a lot of the comics, which I'll probably talk, a lot about more here in the coming podcasts, is a lot of like what you saw in the comics was kind of like what they would take from the games. So like Sonic Adventure came out, and obviously they had that whole plot line with Tikal the Echidna. And, of course, you want to see that in the comic. You don't want to see like, what's that character? Tell me his name again. Edge the Arrow Man, or what was his name?
Rob of the Hedge.
Rob of the Hedge. Come on. What is that pun? All right. I guess when I get there, I'll have an opinion.
I'll admit it too. I loved him as a kid.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll like the character. Who knows?
Well, I was a kid too, so pretty much if the comic did anything, I was like, this is the best thing ever because,
Right. At that time it was novel because what's kind of funny reading it today is, because, based upon the world we live in today, what we were talking earlier, when you watch Dragon Ball Z, everything that was like serialized, it was hard to catch anything on television or, like when you got like one magazine, that was your magazine that you got for the entire month. It wasn't like there's a new panel or a couple of pages, next week or the week, next week or something. So it's kind of like it's strange being looking at some of it now and thinking, oh, this is all I had for the entire month, so I'm going to soak all of it in. And being an adult, I don't really have all that time to soak all of it in, but I kind of have to if I'm going to be doing this podcast. Which makes it kind of hard to keep moving forward and getting to these later plot lines and these threads. And I kind of feel like these storylines, these later storylines, they kind of, maybe you can argue against me with this, and I'm fine with it. They kind of take away from Sega Sonic, and it kind of like detracts a little bit.
Oh, I think, it definitely feels like it is expanding upon the Sat-Am characters and not the video game characters. And it feels definitely like when a video game tie-in happens, they have to try really hard to integrate it into their current canon in the comics. Like when Sonic Adventure came out, they had to dedicate like 2 issues or so just to why do the characters look different now?
I remember that where they changed Amy's style. It's like Amy's got a new style.
Yeah, and
like,
it was because she, spoilers for a 20-year-old comic book, made a wish upon the Ring of Acorns because she wasn't old enough to go on missions with the team, so she wanted to be older.
Yeah.
That was like a whole issue. Or Sonic, why is his quills long and why are his eyes green? Oh, well, it's because he turned into Hypersonic and led a time beam away from the center of Mobius. Like,
I remember all this, actually, yes. Yeah. I actually do remember this.
Oh, the lamp shading is off the charts here.
And
I need to get to this part.
You're right. If you like the Sega character, it's a little tougher to get into because it's very clear that this comic book was based on the Saturday morning cartoon, and when you run out of the Saturday morning cartoon, it just kind of goes on in the same spirit and vein of that cartoon and not necessarily the games. So it's kind of like you've got a Street Fighter, the movie, the game situation here of like...
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
You've got a video game or a TV show based on a video game, but this is a comic book based on a TV show based on a video game.
How did Sonic get his green eyes?
I think it was because he got struck by the time beam while he was some weird super version at the time. And it aged him up by like 2 or 3 years. And also the super form left his eyes green. Because during this whole issue, they made up like 5 different super forms. Because one of them was like Eco Sonic, I think. Because as he kept running with the emeralds, he kept going up in tiers. So it was very much a Dragon Ball Z-esque situation. It was very weird at the time. Again, as a kid, I was just looking at it as like, wow, lore. But looking back on it, I actually reread that issue, not the whole issue, but that little section of it just the other day. And it was definitely, it felt really an out of the way to explain that he just looks kind of different now.
Oh man, I'm actually looking at it right now.
Yeah, like if they had just drawn him differently the next issue, I don't think I really would have like batted an eye.
Yeah, it's just too much lampshading. That's what you call that, right? Lampshading. I'm pretty sure that's the correct terminology. And I guess maybe there's no writers here. They would be able to confirm this. But because like I think the term lampshading means like you put a lamp over like a big bright light because that bright light is so glaring. And, you know, you need to cover that bright light from everybody looking at it because obviously it sticks out like a sore thumb. So you put a nice lampshade over it.
Yeah. And it's funny because in this case, it seems like I said, if they were just like, oh, he looks different now and didn't even acknowledge it, it just drew him different.
Yeah. I
like,
think it would have been
he looks
fine
like
with
Adventure
that.
Sonic.
The
but
more
instead
I think
they were
about
like, they were like, oh God, we have to dedicate a whole issue as to why he looks different.
Yeah. Because I think the one biggest thing that kind of freaked me out about Archie a little bit was when the series got a little bit farther, you know, I forgot who it was that drew Sonic, but I really liked that design in the early couple of Archie issues, like the first 1 through 15, maybe?
That was Scott Shaw.
Scott Shaw, thank you. And he's still kind of with Sonic as well, right? He still draws stuff, or he drew a lot of the Archie covers, even up until they got canceled. Is that correct?
The cover guy, the most prominent cover guy was Spaz or Patrick Spaziante, I think.
Right.
Who was their main like cover guy. I haven't seen Scott Shaw do anything Sonic wise in a really long time.
Well, because some of the earlier Sonics is mostly like one of these, I guess you could say more Looney Tunes-esque.
Yeah,
they had like lots
very
of
much so.
fourth wall breaks and everything. It could have been something as simple as, "Hey Sally, I'm not going to have the mohawk anymore," and then you cut to the next panel. He doesn't have the mohawk.
And then they shifted to introducing more Saddam storylines, and that's when it had that weird tonal shift of, oh, it was slapstick parodying like the Flash last issue, and now they have to save her father from the zone of silence. Like,
yeah, the tonal shift really, I think that really does mess with it. It's maybe how some people kind of feel with the prequels of Star Wars. Particularly the third one. I'm not sure. I think some people still think of those fondly. What's your take on those? I know this is not Sonic related, but I kind of want to know.
I haven't rewatched them in a long time, but I will say I look back on Phantom Menace really fondly.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, because it was the first Star Wars movie of my like. It was the first new Star Wars movie of like my life. You know,
right?
Like all the other ones already existed, but this was a new Star Wars, and it was, oh my gosh, it was, you know, pandering towards people my age. So I look back on that one pretty fondly, despite a lot of the things that, you know, people don't like about it and the prequels in general. But it has Darth Maul in it, so that's really all it takes for me to enjoy it. Is it has Darth Maul and it has that fight between him and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon with Duel of the Fates playing.
You know, I was thinking about that today. Darth Maul. Do you think he's based on Shadow at all? Do you think there's any kind of connection? I was thinking about that.
Yes, edgy the edgy.
You know Darth Maul. Don't you think some of his design is kind of like inspired for Shadow the Hedgehog, or you think not at all?
Wait, are we saying that Darth Maul inspired Shadow, or Shadow inspired Darth Maul?
But Darth Maul inspired Shadow. I don't know. I guess
I kind of could see that because I've seen Shadow's like original concept art, and none of his original concept art even remotely resembles what we got. Like, I can't find any concept art of that middle Link, you know? You've always got the Shadow with the scar over his eye and the droopy quills and the big boots and everything. And then you got the one we have now, but I never see any concept art of like, how did you get from that to that?
Because I did hear one podcast, I forgot the name. It's a Japanese one where they were talking about Shadow's design, and they were talking about how his design was strictly, you know, inspired by like kabuki, like, you know, like the faces that they have in kabuki. Yeah. I should go back and listen to it to get a better take on it. But I think that's one of the inspirations. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not sure who the designer is.
I just
help me out, Marc.
I in my personal opinion, I think that just Shadow the Hedgehog is Vegeta. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good take on it. Yeah,
When Shadow the Hedgehog is Vegeta. That's it. So,
yeah, I could see that. So you're a fan of the IDW Sonic comics.
Yeah.
What's your take on IDW?
I think like you were saying about the Archie Comics is you don't feel like that's in any way like you don't feel the presence of like the Sega lore of Sonic in that at all. I feel like IDW definitely addresses that, and it feels like it's very much a comic book based on these video games. And while it's still doing its own things, because I mean at the end of the day, you have to, because you can only adapt Sonic Forces for so many issues. I feel like it's really good at doing what it does, and it feels like it's very much still taking place in that world of the video game version of Sonic. And what I do like is they're expanding their cast of characters with original characters, but none of them feel overbearing like the Archie comic had. Where a lot of those old side characters would kind of become the center of attention a lot of the times. And it feels like the comics have a very good balance of having these new original characters, but having them be good supporting characters. And when they are brought to the forefront, it's not for too long or they don't overstay their welcome. And plus, I think Tangle and Whisper are probably some of the best original Sonic characters that have popped up.
Yeah, no, those are great characters. I think Tangle is probably my favorite.
Tangle definitely feels like a Sonic Rush character, and I mean that in like the best way. And I'm really excited to see that they put Tangle and Whisper in the Sonic Forces mobile game. That was really cool. To see those that's also what's really cool about that comic is they made original characters for this comic, and they were able to make the leap over to the game side of things. Not in a mainline game or anything, but even the fact that they even made it into a Sonic mobile game is really cool.
Right. My main concerns with IDW and personally, I mean, I think it's beautiful drawn. It's beautiful to look at. I love how consistent it stays. It's like it doesn't do it doesn't do the Archie thing where the style is drastically different the next issue. So that doesn't take me out of it a little bit, because sometimes I think that's my main gripe with the Archie comics. But I do have a bit of a problem with some of the character motivations, particularly Shadow and
I've heard that
Amy.
A lot too, yeah.
Because like with Shadow, it kind of paints him as like this kind of weaker, big-headed kind of character, particularly how he handled with the metal virus that happens in one of the later issues. And then also with Amy, where she kind of takes up the role of Sally Acorn as this leader, which kind of just feels so out of place. But that's just my overall take on it so far anyway.
I think with Amy, I like to attribute that to actual growth of the character, because I like that she's not just, even though she does have her moments of doing so, she's not there just to exist to fawn over Sonic and have a big hammer. I like that she took up more of a prominent, mature leadership role. With Shadow, I don't have anything for that. I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know what his deal is. He definitely during the metal virus thing was just completely, not that I would say that character is responsible, but he was completely irresponsible during the metal virus saga. And was incredibly short-sighted during the whole thing. And it's just not something I would ever expect from that character.
Oh, here's the funny thing about this is when I was telling Marc when I got back into, getting into Sonic games and comics and everything, I started the IDW series because having stopping Archie after issue 70, I went into IDW saying, okay, well, this is a reboot. They'll introduce all these characters again. They'll paint me a picture of who all these characters are. Nope. I'm watching it, or I'm reading it, and I'm like, wait, who is Blaze? Wait. Who is Shadow the Hedgehog? I've seen this character before, but I don't know who this is. And I was like saying like, oh, I guess I have to go all the way back because I don't know who they are. I don't know what kind of character they are. Like, I guess with normal good storytelling, you often, like, when you introduce a character, you kind of have to, like, what they did with Tangle was really great. They introduced like what kind of person she is. Like, you know, they show her doing something that represents what her character is. Whereas I felt kind of like when they introduced characters like Blaze or Shadow or Rouge or whatever, I'm like, who are these characters again? So I kind of felt like, but at the same time, when I saw that stuff with Shadow, I'm like, oh, is this his character? You know? And now after playing Sonic Adventure 2, and I'm like, no, this is definitely not his character. But anyway, I feel
like, they definitely did a thing where it's almost like you jumped into a comic book that had already been running for like years.
It definitely felt that way.
And instead they were just like, all right, so we're A, going to assume you've played Sonic Forces, and B, assume you've already are at least familiar with every game in this franchise so far.
Yeah, that's kind of a high expectation. Anyway, what is it? I has protesteth too much. I think.